What's up, Performance Posse? It's Andrew coming to you from the basement workshop once again. In my last video, I mentioned that I had a couple new molds I wanted to share with you, so today I'm going to go ahead and share that jig mold with you guys. Normally, I'd take you through this whole process from start to finish, but it's cold, it's snowing. I don't like to pour lead in my basement if I can avoid it, but with it being cold and snowy outside, I'd have to keep the garage door partially closed, if not all the way closed, and my garage just isn't suited for filming. There's not enough light in there without the door being all the way open. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you this mold, and I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks to help you be more successful with this mold should you choose to invest in it. Let's get to it. Alright, you guys, here I am over at the jig pouring station. I'm going to try to keep my shadow out of this as best as I can so you can get a look at this mold. This is the Do It Midwest Finesse Jig. Assorted sizes. Model number is MFJ6A. Should you choose to order it, so that's the model number, Midwest Finesse Jig, model number MFJ6A. I'm going to set this camera down for just a second. We're going to crack this mold open. I'm going to give you guys a good look at the inside of this mold. Alright, so as you can see, this is a 6-cavity mold. It pours 1/4, 3/16, 5/32, 1/8, 3/32, and 1/16 ounce Ned heads or Midwest Finesse rigs, whichever you prefer to call it. This mold does require a wire form, and that's WB400. That's going to be the bait keeper that runs parallel to the hook shank. It calls for owner style 5513 hooks. Guys, one of the questions I see a lot of in the forums is, do I have to buy the owner hook? The short answer is no. My answer would be, why wouldn't you buy the owner hook? It's super sharp. It's not super expensive, and comparative to some of the other Eagle Claw hooks, yes, it's expensive. I think some of the Eagle Claw hooks that would fit in this would run you about 8 cents. The owner hook is going to run you, depending on what kind of volume you're buying in, anywhere from 20 to 35 cents per hook. With that said, that owner hook, you guys, it is razor sharp. Super sticky. I just can't see skimping out on the hook. You've taken the time to invest in the mold, the money for the mold. You're taking the time and care to pour your own jig heads. Don't skimp out on the hooks at the last minute. Odds are you haven't skimped out on your rod, your reel, your fluorocarbon line, anything like that. So don't fall short with the hook. Just go ahead, get the owner hook. I promise you, you will not regret it. It says that it calls for owner hook size 1 or 1/0. You could easily go down to a 2, and you can definitely go up to a 2/0. I have not experimented with a 3/0, but I'm going to get some 3/0s for that 1/4 ounce size, because I think it'd be a great little setup for swimming a grub, like a 5-inch grub or a 4-inch grub even. But definitely 2/0 down to size 2 will definitely work inside of this mold. I generally pour on the 1/0. My two favorite sizes are 5/32 and 3/32. Again, this is a really finessey presentation. I just want the lightest jig possible that I can still feel the bottom with. Generally, I'm throwing a 3/32 unless it's pretty windy out. I'll bump it up to a 5/32. But like I said, I'm going to experiment with that 1/4 ounce size for swimming grubs and stuff like that on. So this is a pretty versatile mold, you guys. Don't just limit yourself to Ned rigging with this mold. You'll also see here where I've directly contradicted some of my other videos. I've actually gone ahead and I've smoked this mold. Generally speaking, on my large molds, I do not smoke them. I just don't see the benefit in it. With that said, when you start pouring 1/8 and 3/32 and 16th ounce jig heads, smoking the mold becomes very important. It just creates like almost a little film over the mold itself. It allows the lead to finish smoother and pours more complete with greater ease. You don't have to keep the mold as hot when you smoke the mold, but you'll definitely want to make sure that this mold is nice and warm when you're filling those smaller cavities so that you get nice complete pours. So that's a look at the internals of this mold. I want to go ahead and show you guys, I got a couple here that I haven't taken the sprue off, and I want to point something out that's really important on this mold, you guys. So bear with me, I'm going to flip this camera around, and we're going to go over that really quick. So guys, I saved a couple of jigs that still have the sprue on them from the first batch that I made out in the garage, because I want to show you guys this. This is really important. With this jig head, I would absolutely recommend investing into a side cutters. And I'm going to show you why really quick. I got a pliers real handy here. If I go to the traditional method, and this is what I normally break all my sprues off with when I'm pouring, brush jigs or current cutting jigs for the walleyes, I go ahead and I rock it. And it just pops right off there. You can see it comes off relatively clean. The problem with this jig head is because it's so small and there's such a little amount of lead on the hook itself, you'll see that this jig head will have a tendency, hopefully that shows up on camera, it actually rocks on there when you twist it off. So you're going to definitely want to use a side cutters. However, if you do what I just did and your jig head rocks a little bit, don't fret about it too much, because when you paint that thing up, the paint will go ahead and lock it in place. You're just going to want to make sure that you're careful about keeping that nice and straight on there. So side cutters is preferred. The nice thing when you do twist it off, you get a very minimal amount of sprue left on there, and you can just hit it with a file a couple of times, and that thing's ready for paint just as is. But with the side cutters, you're going to have to do a little bit more filing because that lip is going to be a little bit more pronounced, you guys. But like I said, don't worry about it if you don't have side cutters. You can still do it like this way. Just take a little extra care when you paint it to make sure everything's lined up, because what's going to happen is the powder paint is going to fill inside of that. There's a little cavity there, and you'll be able to see it if you start pouring these. It's not probably going to show up on camera very good, but the paint will fill that in, and it'll be nice and sturdy. There won't be any issues with that head rocking on there like that. But just so you guys are aware of that, I don't want you to be caught off guard by that if you start making these yourself. But go ahead and just paint them with the ProTech powder paint, and it'll hold right in place, no issues. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a close look. You can kind of see, again, this is one that kind of came loose. You can see how that'll pivot from side to side just by touching the wire keeper. Again, that's nothing to really fret about. Hopefully that's showing up and it's sort of in focus and you can see what's happening there. But you can see how that wire keeper is pitched away from the hook. Again, it's not a big deal. I have one that was just like this right here that I painted. You can see that I went ahead and I got that wire to line up perfectly with the hook shank. It didn't take any real effort, but now I can go ahead and I can hit that with my finger and there's no movement there whatsoever. It's a super sturdy jig. It's ready for the water. When I painted that, I just dropped it there, but when I painted it, I just went ahead and I made sure that I dipped it straight down like this so that that wire keeper would stay close to the hook body. And like I said, the powder paint just filled right in there, and this is a perfectly fine jig. There's nothing to worry about with it, but again, using a side cutters could help you avoid some of this, I think. Alright, there you guys have it. That was a quick overview with a few little tips and tricks for the Do It Molds Midwest Finesse Jig. If you guys want to see that from start to finish with where I actually pour the jigs, leave some comments down below. Once the weather gets a little nicer, I'll try to get out in the garage and make that video for you. But again, just to reiterate, smoke that mold. Don't be stingy on the hooks. Go ahead and splurge. Get yourself that owner hook. It's razor sharp. It's not going to let you down. And use that side cutters so that you don't wind up with that jig that comes a little bit loose on top of the hook, so you can just go ahead and get straight to painting without taking that little bit of extra care. Other than that, you guys, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Don't forget to become a member of the Performance Posse by subscribing to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button if you got some valuable information out of this, or you just enjoyed the video in general, and leave some feedback for me below. I try to respond to all the comments, you guys. I really appreciate all the support. Until next time, tight lines.